So there are three key questions here that I think form the center of our being as individuals, as teams, as organizations. I've been using these questions for lots of years as a way of helping myself and others get focused. The simplest I ever heard this boiled down was somebody years ago before voicemail had an answering machine, and when you called up, the message on it was, "Hi, I'm not in right now." And this is not an answering machine, this is a questioning machine. And you know, there really are only two important questions in life. Who are you and what do you want? At the tone, please leave your answer. Well, that's pretty good. That's an existential answering machine. All right. Well, I think that really does get to the bare essence, the core essence of focus and context. Three questions. Where are you going? What do you believe in? Why do you exist? To what extent are you clear around these questions for yourself? To what extent are you clear on the answers to these questions for your team, your organization? I've been in just one too many vernacular engineering debates with a management team about, is this our mission statement, or is this values, or is this vision? In the end, I'm not sure that it matters a lot what we call all of this stuff. But what is absolutely critical, and a lot of assessment work that we do in the consulting side of our business when we go into organizations, is that much priority overload comes from lack of real clarity about what success will look like, or what the 2 or 3 key goals are, or the kind of organization we're trying to build, or what exactly performance excellence is. How will we know what that is? How will we know when we get there? So it's the clarity of that. It's the clarity of our values, 3 or 4 words, phrases, short thoughts around what is it that we value most? What is it that matters to us most? And can we define that in a couple of short thoughts, ideas? Or thirdly, why do we exist? What's our purpose, our reason for being? You can take this one fairly deep, or you can take it more around our mandate, what we're trying to achieve, etc. So you can take it in either direction. So these apply obviously for the team, and they also apply at a personal level. Now, I've been using this first question for quite a number of years. In those early days I mentioned when I went to work at Culligan, I began to tap into the power of imagery and visioning, and it was life-changing, literally, for me. And this whole notion of we become what we think about most. That was a term I heard one speaker, one writer in this area talk about. We become what we think about most. The self-fulfilling prophecy of what we focus on. In a lot of ways, I was kind of glad that that wasn't literally true, because I might have become a girl by the time I was 17. But the notion that what we look at, what we see, brings that into our lives. I'm reading a fascinating book right now called The Luck Factor, where a British psychologist has studied 1,000 people who sorted themselves according to unlucky and lucky in their lives, and is now studying and trying to, or did study and tried to understand what made the difference. And then he developed from those learnings Luck School, where he helped unlucky people change their luck, and actually reported about an 80% success rate in helping unlucky people become luckier. And I know what you're thinking, and it's not that. Get your minds out of there. And what he's determined is that it's a number of factors, but one thing, a key thing, has to do with what we expect, what we see. Do we expect 0 injuries? Or do we kind of think, well, that's an airy-fairy, it's way off there somewhere. What is it that we really expect? What is it that we truly see? What would that look like? And how vividly can we imagine that and continue to stay focused on that as our goal? So I've applied that personally for many years, but I never really, my wife Heather and I had never really done too much of this as a couple, of really going through these questions. And it became pretty clear that we needed to when we were married in 1977. And as I mentioned, we lived in Edmonton for a couple of years, and I went through a major career change while we were in Edmonton, and started and worked with the Achieve Group and began to build that business and changed careers and used visioning and some of these concepts on a personal level, but we'd never really done it as a couple. And when our kids were still preschoolers, our youngest wasn't born yet, it became evident that I really needed to take a look at this from a personal perspective, or Heather and I really needed to look at these questions. One night as I was heading out the door on another business trip, and one of my goals continues to be having half as much fun as my family thinks I'm having on my business trips. And as I was heading out the door, Chris, our oldest, he was about 3.5 or 4 at the time, and he looked up at me and he said, "Are you going home now, Dad?" Well, that was not a Kodak moment. Right? That was one of those moments you think, well, he's a kid, he's got things out of context. Somebody asked me, well, were you not living with Heather? Well, yeah, I just wasn't there very much. A couple of weeks later, a couple of trips later, I phoned home, and Jennifer answered the phone, and she said, "Oh, hi, Daddy. Are you my real daddy?" Well, that'll get you thinking. Have there been any other daddies? If I didn't trust Heather so much, Heather doesn't like when I use that story. The DNA testing came up fine. No. So it was indicative of a period of time that Heather and I were going through, I was particularly going through, where I was in great danger of becoming Uncle Dad, becoming a career success and a family failure. And that really wasn't fitting with my values. And so Heather and I sat down and began what's now become an annual tradition around New Year's time, Christmas time, as we go away for an evening and we vision what our ideal future would look like 5 years down the road. And of course it changes over the years. But we really believe that's been one of the key factors in keeping our marriage together, because we were really heading off in very separate directions. And it really has helped us get focused. It's maybe a bit of that debriefing that I know you're going to talk about later on. But getting focused and really stepping back and looking at, so where are we at? What's working? What isn't working? Where we want to be? And how can we tap into more of this power of imagery and visioning? Why do we exist? What's our reason for being? I do a lot of workshops around these questions. And at one workshop, someone said, "Oh, I know what I'd want them to say at my funeral. I know what I'd want my legacy to be." Because I do an exercise around what would you want people saying about what your life stood for at your funeral. And someone said, "I know what I want them to say at my funeral. I want them to say, 'Look, he's moving.'" I don't think he got the concept, right? Or was trying to deny the inevitable. But it is a powerful thing to do, to kind of think, what's the legacy that I want to leave in my workplace, in my team, in my life, in my family, in my community? What is it all about in the end? What do I want to say that I've achieved, I've accomplished? These are, I think, powerful, profound, and very important questions that are at the core of who we are as individuals, that then work their way into how we connect with others, how we interact, how we lead, because it is an inside job. Leadership starts from the inside and works out.